Buddy. First thing I want you to write down, I'm going to give you some numbers. We're going to talk about the market. We're going to talk about strategies moving forward in light of the market. Okay. 2022 first quarter closed units over 2021 for the search that I did, which was Coral Springs Parkland. Now, wherever you live, you could do the same search. And my guess is you're probably going to find similar results. It might be a little bit different based on location, but if you're here in South Florida, it's probably going to be pretty close, if not right on. Sales in 2022 are down 12.4% over 2021. Okay. So far, it's just information. By the way, none of this is bad or good. It just is. And none of this means anything in reference to your opportunity to be successful, because that's a choice. Regardless of what the market's doing, it's your choice and your decision how successful you are, how many homes you list, how many homes you sell. Right, Nick?
Yes.
There you go. Okay. Home sales peaked at 6.2 million in 2005. Now they dropped to 4.3 million in 2010. Now, coincidentally, we sold 6.1 million homes in 2021. 6.1 million homes in 2021. Prior to that, the peak was 6.2 million in 2005. And then the market shifted early 2006 and gradually declined to 4.3 million in 2010. 4.3 million in 2010. In other words, if we were to timeline real estate sales from the year 2000 this marker is not so awesome. If we were to timeline real estate sales from 2000 until 2010, it would look something like this. We have 2010, we have 4.3 million, and 2005, we had 6.2 million homes that were sold. Now, if we were to timeline real estate sales from 2012 until 2022, it would look something like this. In other words, we're at a new peak. Now, the question is the market going to continue to increase? Are we going to continue to see more homes sold, or are we going to see a leveling off and eventually a shift in the market? And the answer is, I don't know. If we talk about a shift long enough, eventually I'm going to be right. If I tell you the market is shifting long enough, eventually I'll be right. Now, if I were in real estate today, if I were you, I would work as if. In other words, here, write this down. You need to work based on the market you're fixing. If you're not from the southern part of the United States, that means getting ready to. You need to work like you're in the market that you're fixing to go to versus the market that you're in. In other words, act as if. Act as if the market has already shifted and you have absolutely nothing to lose. Start working as if it's 2010 versus it's 2005. Now, if along those same conversations, if we looked at the path of a real estate transaction, we talked about leads and the value of leads. And I'm a lead in your database. I closed yesterday The average commission is $10,000 and the value of that lead is $10,000. The very next day, that same person in your database is worth basically zero. They just bought a home yesterday. It's the very next day. The value of that lead is zero. Now, we know in the US, approximately every 7 to 10 years, we buy and sell. In other words, we move. So 10 years from now, that same lead is going to be worth $10,000 again. True story, right? Now, Hervé, here's the question. If I gave you a lead right here, and you talk to the person that I gave you, and they said, yep, looking to buy a house. Matter of fact, need to buy a house in the next 2 to 3 months, moving to blank. It's important that we move there for blank. In other words, I'm ready, willing, and able to buy. Is that a good lead? Super excited, right? Now, Juanita, if I gave you a lead and that lead was right here, they just bought a home, let's say 2 years ago. However, they're on the internet, they're surfing properties and they ask for more information on a home, and you speak to them, let's say it's me, and I tell you, I haven't been in my home for 2 years. I'm just kind of curious to see what that home is selling for. I'm not really looking to make a move, maybe not for another 5 or 6 years. Now, the average real estate agent would say, lousy lead. They would take that lead and they would throw it in the trash. True story, right? Okay. Now, consider for a moment that, you guys can see that, right? Good. Consider for a moment that there are 83 million homeowners in the United States. And last year, there was approximately 6.1 million homes that were sold. Now, Nick, you get this lead. I give it to you, and I'm looking to buy a home in the next 30 to 60 days. That is a great lead. It's the bottom of the funnel lead. There are 83 million homeowners in the US, 6.1 million moved in 2021. And that's a great lead because it's the bottom of the funnel lead. Now, this lead is a top of the funnel lead. In other words, you have a choice. You could either throw it in the trash, or you can put that lead into your database and you can nurture that for a long-term relationship, knowing that over time, 7% of that top of the funnel is going to move every 12 months. Now, here's another way of looking at that. If I can build a massive funnel where I have, let's just go with a round number, and let's say 500 people that I've entered into that top of the funnel. Matter of fact, if I'm working 250 days a year, that's 50 weeks times 5 days with 2 weeks off. If I'm working 250 days a year, how many people would I need to put into the top of the funnel every single day in order to get to 500 if I started with 0? 2. That's it. How simple is that? It's pretty darn simple. But you know why agents don't do it? Because they don't have a standard to do it. Here's the standard of the average person walking around you every day. I'm doing the best I can. That is a standard that leads to mediocrity. When you hear somebody saying, I'm doing the best I can, there's nothing wrong with that. But what if instead of I'm doing the best I can, these are the standards by which I live my life? These are the standards by which I run my real estate business. I talk to 20 people a day, non-negotiable. I add 2 people to my database every single day, non-negotiable. These are standards by which I run my real estate business, by which I live my life. Now, I've added 500 people to the top of the funnel. I'm communicating with them systematically in order to build relationships. And 7% are going to move every 12 months. That's 35 sales. If my average commission is $10,000, that's $350,000. Focusing on the top of the funnel, not chasing the bottom of the funnel. Because I have standards that I hold myself accountable to. And I act as if the market we are headed towards versus the market we are currently in. When things are good and the phone is ringing and people are buying and selling homes, excuse me, your phone rings, you pick up the phone and you sell a house. And then the market shifts. Just because the market has moved from more to less doesn't necessarily mean you have to. As leads become fewer, you must recognize the situation and make a more concerted effort to generate them. You can't sit back. You must be more rigorous and resolute in your lead generation than ever before, and more so than anyone else. It's a competition. In fact, now is the time to shift your lead generation activities into the highest gear possible. Mortgage interest rates for a second. So historically, from 72 until 2020, the average interest rate, mortgage rate in the US, 7.81%. From 1972 until 2020, the average interest rate in the US was 7.81%. 1972 through 2020, the average is 7.81%. From 1990 until 2020, it's 5.97%. Now in 2021, it was 2.96%. Here's one of the other things that's interesting is if you track mortgage rates over history and you have spikes in the interest rates, those typically last 3 to 4 years maximum before those rates start to fall again. Why is that important? Because if you have a buyer right now who's not buying because they're afraid interest rates are going up, well, if you buy a house today and the interest rate is 5%, it doesn't mean you're locking into a 5% interest rate for 30 years. You're only locked into that 5% interest rate until the interest rates fall again and you just refinance. If you bought your house today at 5%, interest rates drop to 3%, what would you do? You'd refi? Could you do that? Role play with me.
Yes.
Could you do that?
Yes.
Yeah, you could. Or you could sit and wait for the interest rates to come back down again, right? I mean, you could stay where you're at. Let's say they don't own a home, they're renting, okay? You can stay where you're at and you're going to stay in that home that you're renting for $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year. For the next 3 years, you're going to spend over $100,000 on rent when you could buy a house and just refi 3 years from now. You see, people think they're going to own that interest rate for the rest of the time that they own the house. And matter of fact, what's the odds they're going to stay in the house for 30 years? Not very good. We know the average person moves every 7 to 10 years. So they're not making a 30-year commitment. They're making a 7 to 10-year commitment. And when interest rates drop, what are they going to do? They're going to refinance. See, your job is to help people make new decisions based on new information. When they get stuck and they're not making a move because of their mindset is messed up, you know, Zig Ziglar said, you know, you need a checkup from the neck up. And when they've got stinking thinking, it's your job to help them to see things different in order to make a new decision based on new information. All right, that was a little bit of information on a lot of different topics. And tell me what you heard. Clarissa.
I heard that sales